My wife cheated on me during quarantine. Final part. I went back in her face and told her to do it again, but she backed down. This is when our kid woke up and came into our room. She said to me, "Look at what you've done. All of information is now visible to your kid," which irritated me. As I heard her phone 911, I went around to take my kid and guide him to his room, and I grabbed my sleeping father and urged him to monitor the boys and keep them in the room since the police were on their way. When the police came, one of them questioned me for my tale, while the other two walked in and asked for hers. They listened to both of our accounts and examined the injuries to my chest and face, as well as the bruises on her ankles. They concluded that my injuries were more significant and that she was the aggressor. When they asked what I wanted them to do, I told them she needed to be arrested. I'm not lying when I say my heart fell as I heard the handcuffs slapped on from the other room. Yes, there was horrible cheating. My daughter's manipulation was horrible. Abusing me physically this night and every other time she's done it is and was horrible. However, this is still my wife. I still have feelings for her. That isn't something that just fades away as a result of the drama we create in our lives. I tried so hard to save our marriage, which required me to be really open, and in the process of being vulnerable and learning more about myself, I began to feel more attached with her. It's difficult to describe why, but that's how I felt. It seemed as if she had been pointing out my problems for years, and I was now realizing what they were and getting better, so I was grateful. I resisted the temptation to demand the officers to stop arresting her. I'm sick of her stomping all over me. I'm sick of her hurting me physically, emotionally, and mentally. As a result, she was charged with felony domestic violence. The bond was increased from $5,000 to $50,000 due to the gravity of the issue. I fell asleep at 12:30 a.m. and got a collect call from my wife around 1:17 a.m., but it went to voicemail. I also got a phone and a text from the bondswoman, which I didn't notice until the following morning. When I heard my wife pronounce her name in the collect call, I could tell she was depressed. Some of you reading this may think I'm weak, which is okay. Maybe I am, but I doubt it. I'm quite aware of who I am. Hearing her in that scenario, on the other hand, shattered my heart. I phoned the prison, but they wouldn't allow me speak to her for obvious reasons. She was also in isolation for COVID precautions. I talked with the bondswoman, who informed me that I would have to pay $5,000 if I wanted her released. Otherwise, she would have to languish in prison for weeks. I don't have $5,000, and even if I had, I wouldn't pay it because of the new financial circumstances I'm in as a single guy. I couldn't also let her remain in there for weeks. It would have devastating consequences for her. She would lose her new residence, her job, and most significantly, it would have a significant influence on the well-being of our two young children and my daughter. Because I was a bit uncomfortable and wanted to be sure, I went to the hospital and had an EKG, X-ray, and blood/urine test. I also want that this be medically recorded. During that time, though, I also contacted her mother and father in order to pay her bond. The bondswoman would receive $1,000 in exchange for a payment schedule of $350 per month. I phoned her mother twice, but she never returned my calls. I texted her the following. "Hello. Your daughter is incarcerated. If you want to talk about it further, she has to be bailed out. Please let me know." It was my whole aim not to inform the children about anything. But first, let me explain how foolish my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law is. She's arguably the stupidest person I've ever met. Instead of phoning me, she texted my daughter. "Hello, my name is Grandma. Could you please explain what's happening on? Veronica was apparently imprisoned by your father." I was freaking irritated. I was agitated, but I needed to remain cool. At this point, I was doing it for health reasons because I didn't want my heart to burst from the obscene amount of stress. As a result, I texted her. "Thank you so much for including my daughter in the problem. We were going to attempt to keep the kids out of this, and I didn't throw her in prison. She placed herself in that position." She replied, "And no, these are not mistakes. Don't be concerned. Your daughter believes that your wife is in the hospital. If there is another time, be more specific in your explanation of why she's in prison. You can't just inform her mother that she is in prison. I've heard your arguments. So please accept my apologies if I suspected the worst. I basically told her I owed her nothing and to off. No, my daughter did not believe my wife was in the hospital. She was aware of my presence. I also talked with my father-in-law, who rallied the troops and secured the $1,000 bail for my wife. The unpleasant thing is that a state statute needs an in-state individual to co-sign the extra $4,000 bond. And it had to be me. Side note: the divorce order will state that I will not be held liable for this debt. This has already been decided. So I spent the remainder of the day and evening on my friend's sofa, my phone glued to my palm, waiting for my wife to call. I can't put into words how I felt, but all I wanted to do was hold her, embrace her. Again, I get that it seems weak, but there is so much more to us and the narrative. But I'm not going to give up on anything. We've decided to divorce. We're trying to keep things civil. I get a lot of what I want, and she gets a lot of what I don't. The children will have their mother, and she will be able to maintain her work and move away. The romance has ended, obviously. It was about 10 p.m., and I still hadn't received a call. So I went to bed. Since I hadn't been sleeping well recently, I also hadn't been eating properly, so I'm down 21 pounds. The shower awakened me up at 11:30 p.m. She knew she was home and jumped inside. We spoke when she came out. She sat next to me on the bed. As she wailed, I hugged her. Her sense of guilt was palpable. "I don't know why I simply didn't listen to you," she kept saying, "and I'm so sorry." It was soothing for me to hold her. It gave me a feeling of completion. It aided my recovery. I kissed her as well. She first resisted. "It's not going to be what you want it to be," she remarked. I told her I wasn't naive and that I was aware of her lack of feelings for me, that she doesn't want anything to do with me. But I wanted to get that final kiss she gave me out of my thoughts, which was fairly loving and passionate, shortly before she cheated on me. Surprisingly, even though she did not kiss me, and I was just kissing her lips, it helped. I felt at ease and eager to go. I'm not sure where things go from here in terms of legal. Right now, I am responsible for ensuring that she attends court on a regular basis. Update 3. I don't necessarily disagree with the comments that I'm a beta man, a doormat, needy, or whatever other descriptor you want to throw in. I've also been something that a lot of guys don't want to be. Open, honest, and immensely exposed to the internet strangers. But here's what most folks aren't aware of. Outside of my family, it is not my personality. That is not my personality. People are seeing these qualities in me because I have completely dedicated my whole life to my family. Regarding my wife, to my grandchildren, they genuinely are my lifeline. They are the reason I get out of bed in the morning. They're the reason I remember to take deep breaths. They're the only reason I'm not a total jerk. When I discovered my wife was cheating on me, my whole purpose for being came crashing down around me in real time. It ruined my identity. My first marriage grief began to boil to the surface. I was concerned about how my children would cope over the following 10-15 years. My concerns about how I would live financially and emotionally overcame me. Were my sons going to want to abandon me, like my daughter had? I'm one of the most devoted and caring husbands a woman could wish for despite my issues. My wife knows how much I loved her and would have done everything to make her happy. Despite my prior rage problems, I am the sort of spouse that any woman would desire. These past 34 days have been difficult for me, and I have not handled them properly. I don't believe anybody could take that well, and sitting on the sidelines and passing judgment without knowing the whole tale is intriguing. I'm not outraged or wounded by the language others used. It's so kind of you. But I wanted to add my 2 cents. After everything has crumbled, it's quite simple for people to recognize the red flags. It's not always simple to notice them right now. I spotted a lot of red lights in my first marriage right away, but there was a lot I didn't see till the end. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, how am I doing? I believe that, in the grand scheme of things, I am doing well. My stomach is utterly messed up. My body won't let me eat more than 1 meal every day. I attempt to feed them tiny meals throughout the day, but it doesn't work. If I attempt to eat when my body isn't ready, I become nauseous and start vomiting. I also paid for a 6-month CrossFit membership. I've always enjoyed CrossFit, even before I got into this relationship, and I'd want to return to my roots. I was supposed to go back down to 220 pounds. For my body type, this is very thin. As of today, I have officially lost 30 pounds in 34 days. I gained 17 pounds in the first 7 days because I couldn't eat anything. Divorce diets exist, you guys. I'm presently 81 pounds short of my target. I've already met a quarter of my target, and it feels pretty nice. My birthday is today, and I'm 40 years old. My body is furious at me for all of this exercise, haha. I've been going to the chiropractor and icing my whole body. My wife just moved out of the home. One of the most difficult things I've seen is that since I was such a faithful and loving spouse, it's difficult for me not to be supportive of her. I've been playing mind games with her, and I don't believe it's fair. Despite the fact that she's been playing mind games with me, I'm continuously having awful days when all I want to do is make sure she suffers emotionally as much as I am. I just purchased the self-help book, Attachments, which I am really enjoying. It's truly assisting me in understanding who I am and who I can become. Someone on Reddit also suggested I read After the Tears, which I'm thinking about doing. It seems intriguing, and it nearly appears to have been written just for me. I've been hiking as well. I purchased some hiking boots. And believe me when I say I discovered a hammock with a sloth logo that I can take trekking with me. I just adore sloths. Before you say anything, I've signed up for various dating apps. I understand. I'm mostly seeking for a buddy. My emotions have been so mixed up that it's been difficult to defend myself, and I've been ghosted on all 3 of my dates. On Sunday, it nearly drove me into another downward spiral, so I had to do some real soul searching. I'm bent on just having pals. It's not FWB or anything. We're just buddies. I simply want to connect with someone. Someone who appreciates me for who I am and my opinions and emotions. Something I haven't received from my wife in 7 years. Last night, a lady asked me out through one of the apps. She seemed to be nice, but I was quite proud of myself when I told her that I wanted to wait a few weeks and get to know her better as a friend before we did anything like that, which is the exact opposite I did with the other 3 dates. I even made a hard pass list, where I would not engage in a friendship with someone who raises too many red flags. Even as I write this, I realize it's still a terrible idea, but I feel compelled to proceed. Perhaps in a year or 2, I would wish I had done things differently, but for now, this is what I believe I need. It's been great to have folks to chat to. In addition, I wanted to respond to several of the remarks made regarding my daughter. This has actually bothered me. I understand it, but I don't like it. I want people to understand that this is still a youngster who was thrust into an adult circumstance and made some awful choices. But I'm delighted to say that my connection with my daughter is improving dramatically. She's becoming more affectionate and understanding toward me. We're regrowing as a father and a daughter, and I'm so proud of who she is as a person. She's so incredibly intelligent, gorgeous, and mature that it's easy to realize she's only 14. We've had many heart-to-heart chats, and she understands where I'm coming from. She knows my suffering, and for the first time in a long time, she has shown me empathy. I've had several bad days since all of this happened, and my daughter will sit next to me and ask if I'm okay and if I want a hug. Guys, I can't even begin to tell you how far we've come. Please do me a favor and leave any bad remarks about my daughter in the comments box. I realize I brought her into a very public debate, but she doesn't deserve your scorn. She was a small girl who had been tormented every year of elementary school since we lived in a wealthy, affluent neighborhood, and she didn't grow up with these kids. She'd been physically assaulted several times, and the only person she was supposed to be able to turn to for safety and support was her father, who couldn't control his own rage. I don't blame her for developing a dislike towards guys. She too lost her original mother when she abandoned her, and she developed a strong attachment with my SDBXW. A small child needs a mother, and I'm grateful that through it all, I was able to find one she adores. That was the only thing I got right out of all of this. In addition, my SDBXW has really taken responsibility of everything of her nonsense. She has confessed that everything she has done, and I mean everything, has been wrong. I wish I could go into more depth so you could see where she's coming from. There are obviously severe problems there that I won't get into that have prompted her to behave in this manner, and I hope she finds happiness one day. Finally, I'd want to let you know that my rage problems have much improved. They've really improved over the previous 7 months, but I've been less worried since everything has transpired. I'd known for a long that this relationship was coming to an end, and the burden of knowing is gone, and it simply feels better. I'm working on it every day, but I'm a lot happier, more nice person to be around. Some of my sons can look up to and be pleased to call their father. Update 4. I can't help but despise my SDBXW and lash out at everything she says or does. I can't help but feel my stomach acid boiling when I know she's spending time with the guy she cheated with. She absolutely deserves all 100% of what I give her. But even when I say or do things that are justified, I feel sick to my stomach with anxiety for the rest of the day. For clarification, I've started drawing boundaries. I'm struggling with how I feel about it, but I know it's necessary. Things with my kid have been getting a lot better. I can even see her start to move away a small bit from my SDBXW. She still loves her and views her as a mother figure, however, which is wonderful. I did expect, however, that she'd not want to spend as much time with her as she first intended. She would have to sleep on the sofa in a small apartment, and she prefers her own space. Normal adolescent, and her brothers are noisy, which causes her concern. One recent challenge for my daughter has been her desire to legally change her name. She said that she has never had a connection with her name, and her friends began referring to her by a name she much likes. The truth is, I selected her name with great care. I adore her given name. Her first and middle names complement each other quite nicely. In addition, I just learned that I would most likely be laid off. This is the most difficult for me. I work at the same firm as my SDBXW, we never have to interact. I have to maintain the home since I earn more money, but moving from 2 salaries to 1, then maybe nil, is freaking me out. I know I shouldn't be concerned about what ifs since I could retain my job and worry about nothing, but it's tough not to be concerned right now. The ex and I haven't met with the divorce mediator yet. We'll meet next week, and if I lose my job, who's to say she won't push harder to get more out of the divorce, including time with the kids. Her employment is rather secure, but mine is likely to be terminated. Where is the cosmic balance when the cheating spouse's life is turned upside down? Why do I have to keep being the proverbial punching bag? I work as an applications/business analyst for a hospital and believed my career was quite secure until COVID occurred. I intended to retire here. Today is also the first day I won't be seeing my sons for a few days. They begin staying at their mother's residence on a regular basis. We're using a 2-2-3 formation since they're young. I know I'll grow accustomed to having an empty/quiet home, but I don't enjoy it right now. I'm not interested. I'm looking for my craziness. As soon as I sit down, I want to see my youngest take his baseball bat and beg me to toss him a ball so he can hit it. I'd want to watch my eldest son take all of his blankets from his bed, wrap himself in them, and roll about on the floor saying, "I'm a burrito." Finally, I'm not sure how people do it. I'm not sure how people can stand being alone. I was alone/lonely during the final 3 years of my marriage, which is a different type of loneliness, yet I really want to connect with someone. Someone I can be attracted to as well as someone who is attracted to me. Why does the healing process have to begin on D-Day? I've experienced 30 days when I thought everything was over. I've been putting forth a lot of effort to improve myself. I've been taking care of my health and working out a lot, and I feel amazing, and I really want to meet someone in person. Being a strong empath is one of the most difficult things to be while going through a toxic marriage/divorce. This *T stinks. Update 5. I now reside in California. My SDBXW betrayed me. I caught her doing it. It's been around 11 months after the event. We've taken our time with the divorce, but we've been separated since July. I retained the rental home when she moved away. I served her, and the divorce should be finalized by the first week of October. I earn somewhat more than she does, but not by much, so under state law, I'd have to pay her spousal and child support, even though we'd share custody of the kids 50/50. She was also arrested for domestic violence against me. despite the fact that she had been physically assaulting me for years before. Despite all of this drama, our divorce was amicable. We hired a private mediator, and she stated that she did not want spousal or child support. We've had our share of ups and downs, mostly because I've given her a lot of wiggle room since we never agree on anything. But now she wants to force me to keep our soon-to-be first grader in daycare, despite the fact that he will be in school full-time. It just doesn't make sense for both of us to pay that much for 1-2 hours of daycare. I'm not going anywhere. She's now going to court rather than our private mediator to compel me to keep him in daycare. She believes that bringing him out would harm his socialization, which is absurd. I can also see her using spousal and child support against me as a weapon. I honestly don't know how the law in California works for spousal support and child support, but even though I make more than she does, I have more house bills. I'm just scraping by right now. Paying her would put me in a bind and compel me to relocate. The kicker is that I have another ex-wife with my kid who hasn't given me child support in 3 years, and there's nothing I can do about it since she relocated out of the country. It's quite difficult to be the father/husband in this circumstance. Edit. Seriously, if your remark is about how stupid it was to get married and how anybody should have known better, you will be banned. I can't imagine having such a small life that you come on a topic where someone is seeking guidance and be this harsh. You may believe you are wise or have a better life than others, but you do not.